Hi Gemini, welcome to your weekly reading for January 8th to the 14th. First, I invite you to please subscribe to my channel. And the card deck I'm using is The Good Tarot by Colette Baron Reid. Oh yes, if you want to see what your monthly tarot video is, I did upload those at the end of December. So if you haven't checked that out, please go ahead and find that as well. And on with the reading. So I'm using the Colette Baron Reid, The Good Tarot. And then I pulled one card from the Medicine Woman Tarot deck to sort of clarify the reading and give further insight. And then at the end, we're going to pull one Goddess Oracle card. And so let's begin. So at the bottom of the deck, the overall energy of your reading is the Messenger of Air. This card can sometimes talk about being very dogmatic in your thinking, responding or reacting to things based on like subconscious programming or also based on past experiences. So sort of like judging a situation based on what you saw in the past, even though it may not be anything like that. So again, it can represent dogmatic thinking. And also can mean swift thoughts, communication. So crowning your reading, we actually have the Hierophant. And this card in this particular deck is also called Spiritual Practice. So perhaps you have been engaging in a daily practice of meditation or prayer or chanting or anything that you feel connects you to the divine. If you haven't been doing anything like that, this card also talks about ritual, and it can also talk about marriage as well. And here there are two, I don't know if you can see that, there's two wedding rings there in the card. Similar to what it would look like in the traditional tarot, the Magician. This card kind of reminds me of the Magician a little bit in the traditional tarot. Basically, this card talks about bringing your spiritual practice into some kind of physical manifestation. And whatever that means for you. The present situation, we have the Eight of Air. And in the traditional tarot, this card would show you a woman surrounded by 8 swords with a blindfold on. But in this particular deck, this figure here is actually looking at its own reflection. And this talks about seeing things clearly and pulling yourself out of denial. So this card can signify a little bit of denial, depending on how you look at it. You can pull yourself out of the denial and choose to take off the blindfold and see things as they really are, which is what this card is asking you to do. See with clarity. Take the blindfold off. Crossing that as the obstacle is the Queen of Water. And I believe you got this card in one of your other readings I did for you, Gemini. This card talks about healing yourself. It talks about being a healer, healing yourself. It also can talk about being worthy of respect. And how do your relationships show you how much respect you have for yourself? Like, do you allow people around you to disrespect you? Are you keeping, good company? And perhaps it's time to raise up raise the bar on that, because you can't really heal yourself if you're allowing other people to disrespect you. Now, what I see in this reading, even though this card here, this is the this card would be your hopes and fears, and this is the Five of Fire. Generally, this card in the traditional tarot, you would see a group of 5 people with wands, and they're sort of competing with each other. There's a bit of competition going on. in this deck, it's asking you to, it can also be a little bit of like conflict, and especially where the Five of Swords could be a conflict of ideas, this can be a conflict of wills. And in this deck, this card asks you to be open to things that seem out in left field. To perhaps go with what you may not have always, something different from what you're used to. Okay? Don't do the same old, same old. Maybe it's time to open up your ideas, your mind a little bit to things that could seem counterintuitive. Maybe it doesn't seem like it makes any sense, but sometimes the things that we think make sense, don't even make sense according to natural and universal law. So we have to question our beliefs, right? Dogmatic thinking. We have to question our own beliefs, understand, a lot of it was programmed into us, and allow ourselves to be open to thinking in order to lessen the competition a bit and to bring more cooperation. Now, this card next to the Hierophant could also signify somebody who's having perhaps some marriage problems. Okay? There might be a Gemini out there watching this video who is, maybe you're having some issues with your lover, your husband. Most likely you're married and you might be considering a divorce. But I think what this reading is really asking you to do, and of course, I don't know your situation. I don't know what sort of situation you might be in. And of course, if you wanted further insight, I'd be happy to have a one-on-one with you, if that's what you wanted. But what I'm getting from this particular general reading is that maybe you're being a little too hard on yourself or your marriage, and maybe you need to try to be a little bit more counterintuitive and be open to different ideas. Okay? Now, in your recent past, we have the Four of Water, and this talks about disappointment. Maybe things didn't really work out the way you had hoped they would. But this card also talks about dreaming and introspection. And maybe it's asking you, although you feel disappointed, excuse me, I'm just going to take a sip of this. You might feel disappointed, but there's always room to dream. There's always room to, release these bubbles of disappointment and bring yourself to a place where you can heal and where you do feel, number one, that you respect yourself and you see things clearly, okay? You let yourself see things clearly. That's very important, because sometimes we want to delude ourselves and have this sense of false hope that may not be true. Now, speaking of hope, you did get the Star card in your outcome position, which I think is a really nice card, especially for the outcome. Now, of course, this isn't a false hope. The Star card it represents inspiration. It represents real hope and real true healing. You could also be dealing with an Aquarius, as you do have the Messenger of Air. Perhaps you're dealing with an Aquarius that is a bit immature in terms of if this was a relationship reading, because I do see under here, under the Messenger of Air, you have the Two of Water. So that's also why I keep bringing up the fact that this could be a relationship. And you have the Four of Air under there, which is, maybe you've been having a lot of arguments with this person. And they might not be all that bad of a person, but you need to, release even your own. Maybe you are the one being immature in this situation. I don't know. It could go either way. But it is saying that there is hope for this, and to not lose sight of the future, of the vision that you had. Maybe things aren't working out the way you had hoped they would, but you also have to be more open and not, this card can also talk about perhaps you're reacting to things based on your experience with past relationships, and it's not fair to bring that into your current relationship, because the person that you're with now didn't do those things to you. And it doesn't even have to be a relationship with an ex-lover or spouse. It could be a relationship that you have that goes as far back as your childhood. I'm sorry, I skipped to the star and I never got to the foundation. So the foundation, it looks like you've put a lot, whatever this is, this relationship, and I really think it is a relationship. It could be a spiritual practice. It could be a work situation. It could be a multitude. Whatever it is that is going on in your life, Gemini, you put a lot of work into this, and you're not feeling very satisfied with what you recently have been seeing. But what this reading is pretty much telling you is to not give up hope. Don't give up hope. This is the messenger of earth is the Knight of Wands in the traditional tarot, and that's a slow-moving knight. Slow and steady. Being diligent, dedicated, putting in a lot of hard work. So, whatever this is that might be causing you some kind of feeling like there's a conflict of wills going on, these cards are asking you, specifically you, definitely you, whether or not the other person you're dealing with is immature or not, that you should also let go of these dogmatic beliefs and stop responding to things in the way that you're always used to, because there is hope for this situation. And there can be real, true healing for yourself, okay? Especially for you, because at the end of the day, it's about you. Whoever you're in a relationship with, it's you that this is about. And it's about you healing you in whatever ways that need to be healed. So that being said, let's look at the Medicine Woman Tarot. We have the Two of Pipes, which is the Two of Wands in the traditional tarot. And let's see what this has to say. Recognize the call. Let me just look at that. Great Spirit, I see many possibilities. You have given me a world that is full. Let me know what you would wish from me this day, what work my life may accomplish. I am setting aside things of distraction that I might hear your words and receive your vision. Guide me along the way that will accomplish your goals. Lead me into a relationship with all who will illumine my way. The world is within. As the sacred pipe is lit, your inner vision begins to manifest in the world. The pipe is your spinal energy column where male and female unite. The smoke, like the male-female flow within your body, spirals around, rising to the spirit. The eagle, highest flying bird, ascends to give you an overview of a possible life. Possible life, okay? And also, maybe some of you Geminis out there really have been working hard to evolve and to develop yourselves in a spiritual way. And maybe things aren't working out the way you had hoped. Whatever the situation is, whether it's the relationship you're having with yourself or with another, just know that there is hope, okay? You are catching a glimpse of creative, sexual, and spiritual possibilities. Right now, you are being given a general view. Focus and concentration Zeroing in on one aspect will come later. You are being magnetically drawn toward fulfillment. This could be a period of excitement and anticipation, accompanying a feeling of readiness. A possible pitfall at this stage is the tendency to trade your creative, sexual, spiritual energy for money, acceptance by another, or to set it aside for a philosophy. In other words, there is a possibility for self-denial. Instead, you must recognize your potential and seek only to find ways to unite it successfully with the powers of others in the world. The more you dwell on your highest vision, the more you will counteract this tendency towards self-denial and draw support toward yourself. So that goes really well with this reading. Basically, this card is talking about letting go of the denial and focusing on that higher vision. Focusing on the higher vision. And that there is hope. And that you can find this, that you can come to this place. And it's also kind of like asking you, like, when it talks about, rather than like choosing a philosophy or like going, you know, rather than letting others define the spiritual path for you. It's about thinking for yourself and letting your own divinity be your true teacher. Because the Hierophant also represents a teacher. So find your own true inner teacher. Because that's the only real way that you're going to heal. That's the only way you're really going to heal at the end of the day. Others can point the way, give you insight or guidance, but it's up to you to find what works for you and what doesn't, and what it is that you have to bring out into the world. Okay, so let's move on and let's pick a goddess oracle. Please send us one card for Gemini. Please give me one card for Gemini. That's 2. We're not taking 2. One card for Gemini. One card for Gemini for the second week of January. Gemini. One card for Gemini for the second week of January. It's the one. Oh, no, 2 again. Gemini. One card for Gemini. Please give me one card for Gemini. One card for Gemini. One card for Gemini. One card for Gemini. Okay, we got it. Also, before I get into, I want to say, like, and I think it was in your last reading, I think this did come up in your monthly reading, this 2 of Cups. So this could be about a relationship, but I am feeling really strongly that this is a relationship in yourself. And the 2 fish swimming in 2 different directions could be you, Gemini, because that's that twins. You know, you're always feeling like 2 different, you know, there's always like, you're always like, in a way, balancing out, like, thinking of something this way, and then you think of it this way, and then you think of it this way, and you think, so it's about, like, letting these 2 fish in you find harmony and know that there's room for both ways of thinking. There's room for both of those ideas. So we got Kali. Fear. And I was kind of feeling that. Like, maybe you feel a little bit worried almost. Like, you're afraid of, like, what people might say or think of you regarding, like, whatever it is that you know, this is like soul stuff, this is spirit stuff, this is heavy stuff. And it's important to be you, to be yourself, and to know that it's not an easy path to choose, because you will likely lose friends who are, you know, and if those people are no longer your friend because of you opening up yourself in some deeper way, then they weren't your friend to begin with. So let's just see what this has to say Kali. Or maybe you fear. I mean, it's kind of like we've been taught to fear our natural selves because of the way in which our world exists. I mean, our world, this card, like with the subconscious programming and the dogmatic ways of thinking, it's like the antithesis of this real, true freedom of, you know, healing and of self-respect, because in a lot of ways our world almost doesn't want you to have self-respect. It wants to keep you locked up in a mold. So, fear. Kali, I am the dance of death that is behind all life, the ultimate horror, the ultimate ecstasy. I am existence. I am the dance of destruction that will end this world, the timeless void, the formless devouring mouth. I am rebirth. Let me dance you to death. Let me dance you to life. Will you walk through your fears to dance with me? Will you let me cut off your head and drink your blood? Then will you cut off mine? Will you face all the horror and all the pain or all the sorrow and say yes? I am all that you dread, all that terrifies. I am your fears. Will you meet me? Kali has begun her dance in your life to tell you it is time to face your fears. All that is lurking ominously, either buried deep in your inner darkness or close by, needs to be stared in the eye and brought into the light of consciousness. Are your fears serving you by warning you about dangerous places, things, or people? Or do your fears prevent you from dancing your dance, living your life, creating with creation? Kali comes to tell you that your dance is needed as part of the whole dance of creation. Wholeness is nurtured when you reclaim the pieces of yourself that you've given over to fear. Most fears are formless. By naming and witnessing the fear, you gain power. Wholeness is created when you learn to acknowledge your fears and walk through them. So, you know, looking at the reflection here, not being in denial. And, like, you see how this, like, fairy-looking little lady, she's kind of like, yeah, man, like, this is me. This is, you know, I'm cool with being out there. I'm cool with, you know, my far-fetched weirdo ideas. And I'm comfortable with myself. And I don't have to be in competition with others because I'm doing my own thing. So, face your fears and know that there is hope, and it's the beginning of a new journey for you. Okay? So I hope you have a great week, Gemini. Thank you again for being here with me. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this a thumbs up if it brought you some insight, hope, or healing into your life. Thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.